Howdy, Agulin. It's your host, Grant Gaspard, back with another Home Turf podcast. And with me today is Jordan Epp. What's up, Jordan?
Not much. I'm back for my second time here, once again, replacing the K. Nagley, and I'm excited to do it again, honestly.
I think this is our first podcast together, Jordan.
Yeah, because, I wasn't replacing K. Nagley last time. I was replacing you.
Yeah, I was sick last time, and then now Kay's sick with the flu. Supposedly the flu's going around. My roommate just got the flu.
I don't want the flu, so
no, I don't
give
want
it to me
at all. No, I'm good. I haven't been around him, thank God. But hey, back with another episode. Let's get to work, man.
Honestly.
Let's look at a recap of last week. It was a busy week last week. We had a lot of wins, a lot of L's. Starting off with men's golf. They traveled to Florida for the Coral Creek Club Invitational. They placed 8th out of 16 people. And then right after that, the same day, baseball played HBU and won 3-2. And then we're going to go on to Wednesday where women's basketball played Vanderbilt and took an L in the SEC tournament, ending their season, ending Gary Blair's career. Then that same day, men's basketball took a dub against Alabama, who was then the number 25 ranked team.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, that was their first time beat a ranked team this season, huh?
Giving A&M a lot of bubble love right now. Lots of people are saying that they might be in the first four out. So a good SEC championship tournament run could make or break A&M season.
Yeah, we'll get into that more later, man, but that was a good win. Nothing Thursday, and then what happened this weekend, Jordan?
This weekend, A&M took on men's tennis versus Incarnate Word, and women's tennis took on South Carolina. Both of them were able to get W's. Men's tennis also took on Arkansas and got another W. As for softball, they took on Weber State, which ended up being an L, but they also took on Loyola Marymount, and they got a W there. As for baseball versus Washington State, they took an L in that one, but they bounced back the very next day, and they got a W against Iowa, 7-3. Very busy day over the weekend. Equestrian at SMU took an 11-8 win, ranked equestrian team over there in SMU. Soccer at Sam Houston, it's just another exhibition, but a 1-0 victory. Soccer has yet to give up a single goal in exhibition matches.
Really?
Yeah. Softball versus Utah. A&M took a W, but they took an L against UCLA later that day. UCLA is one of the highest-ranked teams in softball, so it was definitely a tough matchup. And then men's basketball versus Mississippi State, another one that's giving A&M that off-season buzz and that postseason buzz. A win against Mississippi State in Bryan College Station.
Ended their season with a win. Nice little cherry on top. Hey, and then this Sunday we had softball. They lost versus Arizona State 7-0. Women's tennis played against Florida at home and won 5-2. And then baseball ended off the Frisco College Baseball Classic in Frisco, Texas with the loss against Wichita State. Really busy week. I'm ready to cover all of it. Another thing that happened this weekend was the NFL Combine, and we had 9 Aggies present at the Combine. Who were these guys?
I've definitely been keeping up with everything going on at the Combine. First off, we started off with our tight end, Jalen Weidermeyer. Then there was offensive lineman Kenyon Green. Offensive lineman he could play anywhere along that offensive line. Running back Isaiah Spiller as well. Defensive lineman Michael Clemens, Tyree Johnson, and DeMarvin Leal, and Jaden Peavy. And then you have linebacker Aaron Hansford and safety Leon O'Neal, who were all taking part in the NFL Combine in one aspect or another.
Yeah. With that comes an end to the Combine. The next stop is Las Vegas for the draft. It was a really good weekend for a lot of these guys, including Leon O'Neal. We have the results right now of how they all did, starting with the 40-yard dash. Isaiah Spiller, he didn't really take part in the 40-yard dash this weekend. However, I don't think he needs to. He's one of the top running backs in this draft class right now. But the 3 A&M guys who ran the 40 were DeMarvin Leal ran a 5 flat. Kenyon Green ran a 5.24, and then Jaden Peavy a 5.3. Then we go on to the bench press, and we have Aaron Hansford rep 24, and his teammate Michael Clemens rep to 24 too. And that's the bench press, and it's 225. Yes. They be repping, huh? Right. That's I'm lucky enough to barely get it up. Shoot.
Much less 24 reps.
Yeah, much less 24. Then we had Tyree Johnson rep 21 reps, and then Kenyon Green rep 20. And then how the Aggies do in the vertical jump?
Leon O'Neal with a very impressive 35-inch vertical for the A&M safety. He's getting a lot of buzz during the NFL Combine for sure. We'll get into some more of his impressive feats that he was able to get into. Isaiah Spiller, 30 inches. DeMarvin Leal, 27.5. PV, 27. And Kenyon Green, 26. Now for the broad jump, Leon O'Neal, again, 10 foot 5 inches. Michael Clemens at 9 foot 8. Isaiah Spiller at 9'6". Clemens clearing Spiller is impressive.
Yeah.
DeMarvin Leal 8'10". Kenyon Green 8'6", and Jaden Peavy 8'4".
All the Aggies had a pretty good combine, especially at the broad jump position. Again, with Leon O'Neal in the cone drill, he was the only Aggie to do this, but this is something that really tests quickness, agility, something that a lot of recruits, a lot of scouts be looking at. And Leon O'Neal placed in the top 10 at the combine for the cone drill, running in 6.89 seconds, man.
Now, definitely for the people who keep up very closely with the combine, cone drill is one of the ones that gets the most attention from the people who know what to look for, but one of the least attention from the people who are just casually watching. Cone drill is one of the most important ones that the people up top take into account. So clearing the 7-second mark is what people really want to see. And a 6.89 from Leon O'Neal is very impressive. It was it top 10 at his position or top 10 overall?
Top 10 overall. Out of everyone there. That's really impressive. I was going through the results at the end. I saw that, and it was worth talking about, man. He had a really good combine. Mm-hmm. Something I definitely think it raised some eyebrows and raised his draft stock for sure.
Yeah, Leon O'Neal, I have seen on Twitter, is getting some day 2 buzz, possible second, third rounder. I would probably still guess he might be a day 3, but he's definitely getting some love from the front offices lately. And there was reports too that after the defensive backs ended their combine day, he was the last person on the field. A bunch of the defensive backs were staying on the field afterwards, getting in some reps, and apparently he was the last one to leave.
Really, man. That's putting that extra work, that's going to help in the long run. And then to end it off, we had the 20-yard shuttle. We only had 2 Aggies perform, and that DeMarvin Leal ran a 4.49 second 20-yard shuttle, and then Kenyon Green ran a 5.12 second shuttle. Really, really impressive combine by the Aggies. Next stop is the NFL Draft, which is on April 28th through the 30th in Las Vegas. Man. And then pretty good combine there. Let's go. Let's talk men's basketball. Another successful weekend. This is the second time in Home Turf podcast history that A&M went 2-0. They went 2-0 last week and 2-0 this week, and they ended their season how they were supposed to, man. And this, especially these last 4 games, really impressive. Finished with a 20-11 record, 9-9 in conference, and ended off their season with 4 dubs. One against Georgia, they won 91-77. We all remember that game. Ole Miss 76-66 dub. Traveled to Bama this past week. Very tough college environment to play in. This is. I've been talking about Bama a lot. They're a really impressive basketball team with J.D. Davison, Quiverly, all those guys over there, and they went over there and took care of business. And then they ended off their season with a dub against Mississippi State, 67-64. What you been thinking about this men's basketball team, Jordan?
Alabama's definitely the one that stands out on there. Buzz Williams, after the game, was saying that Alabama was one of the most talented teams in the country, in his opinion. So it's a big win for them. It definitely puts them on the map that they were certainly off of, for sure, because around the time when this podcast was even getting started, that was when they were right on that decline. They weren't getting all the wins that everyone had seen them get at the beginning of the season. But to show some fight at the end of the season, that's why they're getting a lot of that late season buzz. And they're starting off their SEC tournament against Florida, so that's going to be a tough matchup. And then whoever they face in that round after that is going to be one of the best teams in the country. So they are in for a tough run in that SEC tournament. But if they can win 1 game, and especially if they can win 2, then they could be looking at being one of those teams that could sneak very, very quietly into the NCAA tournament, which is crazy to say, considering about 10 games ago, I would have never expected that.
No, me neither. Not at all. I thought all hopes of making the March Madness tournament was, out the door. And this SEC tournament starts Wednesday. They play Thursday at noon against Florida. The winner actually goes on and plays Auburn, number 1 team in the SEC. And we remember last time we played Auburn, it was a very ugly show. I mean, we won't be having to play in Auburn, which is a good thing, but however, that's still a very solid team. They've had some loss these past few weeks, but we got to match up right. We got to hold Walker Kessler, one of their better centers, man, who
one of the better players in the country.
One of the better players in the country who put on a show against A&M last time we played him. Had 9-10 blocks. Had a triple-double with blocks. Rebounds.
He can do that.
Yeah, he can do that. 7 foot tall. He's a beast, man. But as I see, a win on Thursday will hopefully help secure just one win, but a second win would be nice, and I think that would for sure get them a spot in the March Madness tournament.
Second one's an automatic bid, if you ask me.
Yeah, automatic. So last 4 game stats, after doing some research, A&M has averaged 80 points last game. Another stat that stood out to me was 20 points per game off turnovers. Earlier in the season, we talked about that. We talked about them being able to create turnovers, but scoring off them was a big problem for A&M basketball. And these past 4 games, they're able to cause turnovers like they've been doing, and for sure scoring off them as well. Another thing that stuck out to me was their free throw percentage, and you know how they were beginning of the SEC play from free throw line. We couldn't hit nothing. It looked like there's a lid out there on the rim. They ended these last 4 games. They averaged 77% from the free throw line. They're really impressive.
Yeah, that's a step up. It shows that they've been working on certain aspects of their game that they need to improve on, because, as you mentioned, they were one of the better teams when it comes to forcing turnovers. But especially that free throw percentage increase over the first part of the season into the latter part of the season, very, very important. As well, minus the last game against Mississippi State, they have constantly shot over 54% from the field and 34% from behind the three-point line. So they are hitting it from every aspect that they need to be able to, from field, free throw, three. They're just making their shots, and that's what they need to keep doing. And they're holding teams to only 69.5 points per game, which that's pretty nice. So they need to keep that up for sure.
Yeah, it looks like they're kind of like keying in on all the aspects. Everything they've been struggling on, it's all coming together. They're able to fix all that, man. And a player that's definitely stepped up these past 4 games is Quinn Jackson.
Q.
Big Q. He's averaged 22 points per game these past 4 games and 3.5 steals and about 3.75 rebounds per game. And this week he was named SEC Player of the Week. Deservingly, he deserved that award, and he's been playing lights out, man. Playing really good. So some pretty big news came out last week from one of the Aggie football players, Damon DeMoss. What happened with that, Jordan, man? What's been going on?
The police showed up at the Bright Complex, and they arrested Damon DeMoss under a alleged assault upon his long-term girlfriend, who it has since been revealed who she is. I'm probably just going to avoid it. You can look it up if you want. I'm just going to avoid saying the names because I don't want to, spotlight on her too much. But pretty brutal stuff. The Battalion had an article on it if you want to go look at it. Houston Chronicle was the paper to break it in the first place. But yeah, pretty brutal stuff. Hit his girlfriend against the wall. She bit him, and then he threw her off of the bed, and her face was pretty brutalized. And he ended up getting arrested upon the charge, and he has since been released on bail. And when he went to his hearing, the victim's mom and dad were both arrested for trying to assault Demas and his family, and the victim's parents were also brought in to the jail as well. So pretty crazy story coming out. He has also been suspended from the university, and he is being suspended from the team. I believe he's no longer with the team as of right now. Yeah. So pretty crazy things going on.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happened last week. He ended last season with 15 catches, 235 yards, and like Jordan said, if you want to read up on more of what happened, the Battalion did post an article on it. But don't worry, if you're an A&M fan, keep your heads high. The wide receiver position is very deep.
Especially with the freshmen that they're bringing in.
Yeah.
It's a very good freshman group.
We have Caleb Chapman still, Anaya Smith coming back, Keith Brown, Chase Lane, Jalen Preston, and Big Moose Muhammad. Just a couple of those freshmen Jordan was talking about, Evan Stewart and Chris Marshall. And I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday, and this trainer works with a lot of NFL athletes right now. They call him Footwork King. He's been working with Chris Marshall over this offseason. This is the same guy, this same trainer, who's worked with guys like Deebo Samuel, Odell Beckham, McCole Hardman. I also worked with Aggie, who's now in the draft, Isaiah Spiller. He's worked with a lot of pros.
Spiller, I've seen post a lot of videos with him on Twitter.
Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's been working with Chris Marshall, and that makes, as an A&M fan, you should be really excited because this guy has worked with a lot of good talent, man.
Yeah, no, that wide receiver group is definitely very deep, especially, as I mentioned, the freshman group that will be coming in. They will be getting some time to grow up with Connor Wigman, the 5-star quarterback coming in. Evan Stewart, he's one of the top recruited players in the nation, as is Chris Marshall. Chris Marshall is a dual sport athlete. He is a star basketball player, and he, I believe, also signed with A&M with basketball as well.
Yeah.
But one player that is not mentioned here, but I do want to bring up, is Noah Thomas as well. He's a 4-star. He's a little bit more under the radar. I mean, as under the radar as a 4-star can be.
Yeah.
But 315th nationally in the nation. But he is definitely one of the receivers that I think could potentially... when we did our recruiting story, he was one player I highlighted as a potential gem of the class. Gives me a lot of... I've seen A&M coaches apparently compared him to Mike Evans to him. But personally,
Really?
I think he's more of a Josh Reynolds type. But if A&M fans know about Josh Reynolds, they know about how good that type of player can be. A nice, tall, fast, lanky, red zone threat that can push the ball vertically. I think he's going to be an interesting piece for A&M going forward as well.
So as of right now, you thinking some of these freshmen will come out, start playing right away, or do you think it's going to be a year or so?
As much as we do have, as much as there is a deep wide receiver class at A&M, it's not exactly star-studded as well. I see a lot of potential in Moose Muhammad, who is getting a lot of tick late. Anaya Smith is obviously, the leading receiver outside of, the tight end position. And then Caleb Chapman has been struggling with injury. Chase Lane has been on and off, as is Jalen Preston. But, of course, with time, it's only going to get better. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of improvement to be made. So I would not be surprised if Evan Stewart or Chris Marshall. I don't think that Noah Thomas will be getting any tick early on. But Evan Stewart and Chris Marshall, I wouldn't be surprised if they found their way onto the field in some more wide receiver heavy packages and some four wide packages, 5 wide, sometimes maybe even a 3 wide, but I totally expect them to get some tick early on.
Yeah, I agree. Moose Muhammad is definitely one of those guys who I think is going to be like one of the major targets right next to Anaya Smith. The last 2 games for A&M, especially against LSU, Jalen Preston's one of those guys who really stepped up too, and I can say big guy out of Manville, Texas, dude. He could be a stud next year. I mean, still have a lot of wide receiver talent. I mean, for one of these guys like Chris Marshall, Evan Stewart, they have a good offseason. I mean, they could get some spotlight too, Still have it's really deep. We're really deep at the wide receiver position. Damon Demas isn't a horrible loss to us, but he was definitely a good athlete. Hate to see that happen. So, like I said, we kind of went over the A&M baseball trip to Frisco, Texas to play a tournament. Took 2 L's and a dub. Their 1 dub against Iowa, 7-3. I mean, I wasn't able to watch most of it. I covered Iowa. Actually, I did not cover Iowa. I was gone.
I covered it for you.
You covered it for me. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. I was gone at my brother's bachelor's party in Louisiana, but I was able to watch it. Great game. I mean, they had the lead on Wichita State there to Sunday and then kind of gave it up. Harry Bullpen's kind of been struggling. I don't know if you know much about that, what's been going on.
I am not the most adept when it comes to baseball, but obviously I was keeping up over the weekend as I covered the Washington State and Iowa game. Yeah. Against Washington State specifically, there was some issues with the pitching. There were 8 runs scored within the first 4 innings by Washington State, I believe, and they were able to fix some of the issues once they got to the Iowa game. but it has been an issue that Coach Jim Schlossnagle has alluded to in some of his press conferences. So, A&M baseball was off to a pretty hot start, slowing down a little bit, somewhat similar to softball, although albeit softball is playing some of the better teams in the country as of more recently in Arizona and UCLA. So
hey, still a long season ahead. This is real early in the season, still a lot of baseball to go. I'm sure they'll all figure it out. So hey, that's all we got today for the podcast. Let's take a look in the next week and see what we have in Aggie sports. So on Monday, men's and women's swimming and diving team are traveling to Madison, Wisconsin for the NCAA Zone D Diving Championships. And on Tuesday, March 8th, baseball plays Tarleton at home in College Station. Wednesday, men's tennis will travel to UT Arlington.
Nope, it's at home.
It's at home.
Mm-hmm. And then they also have a doubleheader against Texas as well.
Texas
A&M UT
against College Station. That should be a good game. I might travel to that game myself and go watch it. Softball plays at home versus Texas State. And then on Thursday, March 10th, we have men's basketball against Florida.
Start of the SEC tournament.
Man, that's going to be a real exciting game. A lot on the line for A&M basketball right there. And then what's going on this weekend, Jordan?
And then you get to Friday, and you got the women's golf at Clover Cup. That will be a multi-day event that will be taking place from the 10th through the 13th. As well, the NCAA Indoor Championships for track and field will be beginning on Friday, going on through Saturday. For the A&M athletes who qualified for it, they will be competing. Names to watch out for. Obviously, you have to watch out for Brandon Miller. He was named to the preseason, the Bowerman watch list for 2022, and he's also being named to the midseason watch list for the outdoor season. So he is looking to avenge his second place finish in 2021 last year, and he is hoping to get a first place in the 800 this year for sure. Then you have Equestrian versus Bridgewater College going on at 11 a.m. Then men's tennis versus Lamar, and they also have a doubleheader where they will be taking on Vanderbilt at 6 p.m. later that day. You got women's tennis playing against Mississippi State. You got the softball team traveling to Auburn, Alabama. And then you got baseball starting off their series against Santa Clara. They will be playing for 3 straight days against Santa Clara. And then as for Saturday, you have Equestrian versus Oklahoma State at home. You got another baseball game against Santa Clara, and then softball at Auburn. They will be playing Auburn 3 different times, just as A&M baseball will be playing against Santa Clara.
Yeah, and to finish it off on Sunday, we have men's tennis playing Mississippi State at home. Women's tennis traveling to Oxford, Mississippi to face Ole Miss. Softball finishing that series against Auburn. And men's tennis playing ACU at home. Oh, and also baseball is finishing their series against Santa Clara. And then hopefully, depending on how it goes with basketball on Thursday, they could be playing at 12 on Friday against Auburn. And then we'll see what happens from there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a busy week for very busy week for Aggie sports. Very busy week for the battalion as we have a lot to cover, especially Jordan himself. I appreciate you taking that baseball game for me last week, and I just had that weekend off. But this week we're gonna be back on the grind and excited to get it going, man.
Obviously, I'm always excited.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you for joining
the
show today.
Whenever you need me, I'm always available. I'm always down for this.
I got you. All right, I got you, man. Y'all tune in next week. A lot of stuff's going on this week, and we're gonna be back next Monday to talk about it, man. Thank y'all for showing up.